Philadelphia 76ers have moved on, and they're ready to face the Miami Heat. But, of course, there are a lot of question marks. Joel Embiid suffered a concussion at the end of the Raptors series, shattered orbital bone, similar injuries to the ones he's had in the past. What does that mean for this series? To help us unpack all of that is 76ers beat reporter for theathletic.com, the great Rich Hofmann. Rich, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, is there any new developments in the status of Joel Embiid, and how is the team reacting to Joel's injury?
I mean, I think they're pretty mad internally. I would say it's a very frustrating thing to lose maybe the best player in the league. I don't want to get into that argument. I know this is Takeline, but I wouldn't want to get into that argument.
Go ahead. Feel free, please. As I was saying in pre-pro, I've spent the last 48 hours getting absolutely flambéed by Toronto Raptors fans out of nowhere because I tweeted that I thought Siakam maybe should get a game for what I thought was, I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but I think that was a reckless play and unnecessary in the moment. He clearly was like headhunting the guy. I think it was like very, very borderline a basketball play. And I think it'd be fine if he got a game. But like Raptors fans have acted like I was like, fuck Canada. I think we should cut it off from the North American continent and let it float away and be destroyed. And they are wrecking me for this. So I would assume like Sixers internally, I'd assume they're pretty mad at looking at that play, right?
Yeah, it was not a basketball play. And you know, the funny thing is Doc, who he likes to complain about the officials a decent amount. I actually think in one case he was justified. Like the whole series, Siakam uses his off arm to like, I would like to see like Tobias Harris's like rib cage. Cause I bet it's all bruised from those bony elbows. And he did not get called for one offensive foul the entire series on that. So for that to happen at the end of the game, yeah, I mean, like, look, the guy's face is right in front of you, and to swing your elbow through there, yeah, it was not a good play. I don't think Pascal's a bad guy. You know, he's obviously friends with Joel. They're both from Cameroon. Joel was pretty cool with him after the game. But yeah, I think overall as a team, they're down. I mean, that's such a freak injury. It's honestly, it's the most Joel Embiid and Sixers thing ever, though, for it to happen in that scenario. Like,
absolutely.
Like whenever you have something go right, and it's like, guys, it's unbelievably frustrating because like you can't even, like after a game, have a podcast or write something and just be like, hey, they played pretty good tonight. Like maybe they got a chance against Miami if they keep playing like that. That was like Harden was looking good. You can't say that because the other shoe is going to drop at some point, and it's, you know, it's tough. So, you know, I mean, I think they're saying all the right things. You know, they did. I think they were only like 6-8 without him this year, which is like, for them without Embiid, that's like throw a parade worthy. Like, I mean, they usually were like 0-20 without him, you know, when he didn't play. So I do think like Doc and Harden and Tyrese Maxey, like they have a chance to be a little bit frisky in this series, but I think like there is an overall understanding of like, man, this is going to be hard. And that's even before Joel Embiid, maybe he comes back in game 3 or game 4, but again, they don't even know yet because he hasn't cleared the concussion protocol yet. You know, I know there's been reports like of optimism, but you know, there's still some steps that he's going to have to take to even get on the floor in the first place. Then he's got to play with the screwed up thumb and the mask. It's a tough spot.
Yeah. The odds on the Sixers dropped pretty bad since the Embiid injury came out. And do you think there's like anything north of Harden turning into 2017 Harden for them getting out of here, or is that just like out of the question? Like they know Harden can't be what he used to be anyway.
Yeah, well, it's going to have to be that. Like, I mean, and from what we've seen in Philly, like I've had some takes on Harden. Like his bad games are rough, man. Like they're really hard. And the good games are amazing. Like he just played a game in game 6 where he didn't score 35 points. He didn't have the 40% usage rate that we saw in Houston, but I mean, they scored 130 points, and he made the right play literally every time. 22 points, 15 assists. But to me, a big part of him being able to do that is he's so good with Embiid together. Like he and Embiid, that was kind of the worry for a lot of people coming in. Oh, are they going to fit together? No. Like Harden actually needs Embiid. Like that worked right away. The problem with Harden is, you know, whether it's his hamstring, whether it's old age, bunch of games, lifestyle catching up to him. I don't
lifestyle. I just love that nebulous lifestyle catching up.
It's possible.
You've seen the site come up a couple of times.
Yeah, a couple of times. Maybe during the previous series, he might have done that. Yeah, he's going to Miami. We're going to Miami. It's going to be like put a lock on his hotel door. Like, don't let him out.
That was the joke, that he played so well in Game 6 in Toronto because he finally realized, hey, if you win, you get to go to Miami in the next series. Like, that's
Right,
where
yeah.
you're getting to play. For whatever reason, and to me, I think some of it is just like injury and attrition, like for playing so much basketball. He just doesn't have it every single game. So when he's bad, he just looks slow, and he's just straight up not able to get by guys like he used to. And so, yeah, they're going to need that. Like, I do think he's going to be comfortable with the offense of, hey, we're going to play 5 out for the most part, and we're going to let you run around and take as many shots as you want. I think he's going to be comfortable. Is he going to be able to do that successfully to beat Miami? I don't know. I would say probably the other thing that would keep the Sixers in the series, like if Kyle Lowry is out for a long time, if Butler, if Butler re-injures this thing that kept him out for Game 5, maybe that could make it a closer series. It is a shame though. I kind of thought the Sixers had a good chance in this series if Embiid was healthy and played the whole time. The top end talent was there, but I mean, when you remove him, you can't like write and talk about this guy the whole year of like, man, he might be the best player in basketball, and then remove him and be like, oh, it's not a big deal. No, it's a huge deal. It's massive.
Being a very, very, very secret fan of Sixers basketball, I like to dip in and out of internal Sixer fan conversations. And I think there's no player, which may be surprising to the average sports fan, there's no player that has been more derided, I think, even during the Ben Simmons era, than Tobias Harris. You just did a really great piece on him on The Athletic. He's had a really strong first round. I think if you're looking for how Harden can impact the game, you look at the games that Maxey had and Tobias Harris had in the first round, and the way that Harden could set those guys up and make it easier for them. What's Tobias Harris going to have to do, with Embiid out, to kind of carry the load for this team? And do we think he can do it?
Well, it's probably like the same thing he did in the last round, plus a little more scoring. It's
right.
So when they traded for Harden, and you're right, Tobias Harris with, Sixers Twitter is, man, he's been a hot button issue because
he got really hated
because he got paid $180 million and he's not worth $180 million.
No,
he's just not. Yeah. His father is his agent. He did a nice job on that one. Like if
Long Island legend Tobias Harris, shouts to him. Let me just shout out a native Long Islander.
Yeah, and his father Terrell got him, helped get him that contract. I mean, I would show that. Like my son is probably not worth that contract, and I got it for him, and the whole family's doing great. So, and it's kind of funny now that they're playing the Heat too. That's the other reason that he's not as well liked, because, in the 2019 season, which was just this crazy year, they made 2 massive trades in the middle of the year. One was for Tobias Harris, but the other one was for Jimmy Butler. They kept Tobias. They let Jimmy walk. Jimmy's a better player than him. He just is. And, Jimmy comes with baggage that, like Tobias, like he's a pain to deal with sometimes. I think the Heat would even probably agree with that. But, you got Joel when he's lambasting Ben Simmons earlier this year, being like, yeah, and we traded Jimmy, and that was a mistake. And by the way, he's thought that for a long time. Like Jimmy and him got along. They were simpatico with like the, hey, like no BS. We're gonna tell you when you're sucking and all those things. Like they were big on that. So that's another reason too. Like but the other thing with Tobias is like he's more of like a scorer, and he's more of a scorer on like a 40-win team, like a guy who like puts up not always a good stats, bad team guy, but a little bit like that, honestly. Like, holds the ball, he gets his 20 points, but like how much is he affecting the game? That's what was so crazy about the Toronto series. He was like playing great defense on Siakam. He was passing, he was pushing the ball in transition. he was like taking catch and shoot threes, which he doesn't really like to do, which I'm sorry, you play with James Harden, Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey. That's what you do. We're not calling post-ups for you anymore. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm sorry. So for him to kind of accept that role, and the funny thing with Tobias, we always joke, like, he's been like the team leader. He's like the vocal guy for a long time. And it's always like, man, great player or great guy, but like, it's like, he's an even better guy, which means like he's not quite as good of a player. So for him to kind of catch up in that regard and just, it's been really cool to see. But again, like I do think like this is a really hard task for him. Like he's going to have to score more while also guarding Jimmy Butler in this series. And, I'm not even going to think any less of him if he can't do it, but we'll see. I mean, I will say he's probably in a better headspace than he's been since he signed that contract in Philadelphia for sure.
Takeline is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Ooh, woof woof. I want to tell you once again about the easiest and most fun way to spice up your season. It's Underdog Fantasy and their brand new pick'em game. Oh, yeah. Just pick over-under on your favorite or least favorite player's stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night with Underdog. I call it going doggy style. Sign up now with the code TAKELINE, and you'll double it. Double what? Your first deposit. They'll double it with $100 in bonus cash. When you make your first deposit of $10 or more, Underdog will double it. Sign up and play today.
With the scoring that Tobias Harris is going to have to do, like they have to make up for 30 points and pretty much almost 12 free throws a game. They have to for against the Miami Heat. Is there anything they can do to slow the bleeding down, like at least a little bit?
Well, yeah. And the other issue with it too is like defensively.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid, even
that's the identity, that's your identity on defense.
Guys, I cover the NBA. I've covered the NBA for a long time. Like these guys are huge when you stand next to him. Joel, I've covered him for his whole career. It's still like there are times where I'm just like, dude, you are massive. And to have that imposing of a figure standing under the rim and be mobile kind of around the rim like that. That's a big part of Tobias being able to slow down Siakam and Jimmy in this series. So to not have that, and let's be charitable, like the Sixers backup center, which has been a big sore spot for a long time. It's like
we're not going to say his name, are we?
Go ahead and say it. It's fun. It's like Candyman. Say it.
Kevin Durant's homie.
If you say it 3 times, then he plays 30 minutes in the game. It's great.
I mean, yeah. And now it's like, we have that big back and forth where Doc is like, I'm going to play him against big teams. Like, we know more than you, even though we're just like, hey, like I think you do generally know more than us, but we know this guy is not that good. Like you lose every minute you play with him. Like he's bad on defense, all of these things. Here's the unfortunate part now. You probably have to play him for a little bit now because there are 48 minutes a game. And
there's no one else. There's literally no other body over there.
And the people's champ, B-Ball Paul, like he's going to foul out in 5 seconds. And that's why he was a good backup center. If he plays 8 to 10 minutes a game, if he gets 5 fouls, it doesn't really matter. Now it's like, oh, well, we have to make it 48 minutes without Embiid. So that's going to be really hard. And I think, it's going to be Harden. It's going to be Maxey. One positive thing I will say about this, and I don't want to take too much for the regular season just because it's a completely different thing. They played the Heat without Harden and Embiid in late March, and the Heat had all their guys. And the Sixers won that game because they went hunting at Tyler Hero. It was brutal in the fourth quarter. They scored 35 straight points, just getting him on a switch. And Tyrese Maxey and Shake Milton and Tobias, and especially Maxey though, like going by him like he didn't even exist. That's got to be the way to go about it. Like the one thing about the Heat is they are a good defensive team. They do play some worse defensive players. And that's got to be the goal. Like Harden, he feasts on the bad players. Like he's got to find Toronto was not a great matchup because they had all of those long athletes. He's really got to find these guys for Miami. And I think that's a big way how they score efficiently.
Looking ahead, Joel, last time he was in the mask, we're going to assume he's going to be back in the mask with the injury. Quite loudly didn't enjoy it.
No.
He actively hated it. Really, really did not like it. He's going to have to wear it again. what were his reactions last time to the mask?
Oh, it was unbelievable, and it's honestly it feels like it came full circle because it was here in Miami when they played the Heat in that first round series, like super physical first round series. Heat weren't as good as they were or as they are now. The one thing I'll always crack up about was Embiid throwing off the mask, and Brett Brown, I thought he was going to get a technical. He had to like run on the court and be like, dude, like we're going to get sued if you don't put this thing on, man, like, or whatever. Like you're not allowed to play. He would throw it off and Brett would have to run and be like, dude, you have to play with this. I'm sorry. So now he's got to do that with the busted thumb. It's going to be tough. But I mean, like to me, it's just, he's going to have to play with it. I mean, I think the fact that he doesn't need surgery and the fact that they're going to bring him back, he had surgery and a 3 weeks off last time. So, and I know this is a different type of fracture. This one, I know those can be, I'm not an orbital expert, but I hear that it is a little bit of a different type of fracture on the other eye. That to me is still crazy, and it's for me, it's kind of a hard thing. Like I can rationalize him playing with his thumb, and it's like, all right, he's a tough guy. Like he's going to get through it. Like he'll get surgery on that at the end of the year and it'll be fine next October. When it's your vision though, it's just like, that makes you a little queasy just thinking about that. But I'm sure the thing is they do have to protect him because he's going to want to play. Like absolutely, from the moment his career started and he sits out 2 years in his career, his big thing is, I don't want to be injured guy. I just, right. It's almost more important to him than being the MVP of the league. I don't want to be the guy that people say I sit out games because I had to do that for 2 years. And then I was on like an 18-minute limit to start, like all of these crazy things. To the point where like he missed, I think 4 or 5 games this year due to non-COVID. He was out for COVID for 3 weeks, but get rid of that. Like he sat out like 4 or 5 times just due to rest. I think he takes a lot of pride in that, and I also think he takes a lot of pride in playing injured in the playoffs. So I do think they need to protect him from himself a little bit.
Does the Miami Heat been like one of the more physical teams in the NBA? Does that hold any like barring to how quick they bring him back or how long they wait?
Yeah, I mean they're super physical. I think when they play in playoff series, like it doesn't really even matter who the personnel are. They beat the hell out of you. Yeah. JJ Redick used to say that all the time. Like he was like, man, that first round series, like they weren't even, we were a better team, but they almost like made us lose the next round because it was super physical and chippy and all those things. And that's the other issue with Joel too. Like I think somebody told me today, it's like when Rip Hamilton had his mask, it's like, all right, that guy's like, does that guy even, can he dunk? Like, can he even do that? Is he just going to shoot mid-range jumpers the entire night? Joel Embiid, if he doesn't go down low, I know he's a good shooter, and that's honestly a big part of why he's so good now is that he's got the perimeter game. But Joel Embiid needs to be by the basket for a decent amount of the game and unafraid to like mix it up with people and throw his massive frame around. So it's definitely a different story. And yeah, I would expect them to be super physical. I guess I was thinking about it though. You can't be that obvious. Like you can't punch him in the face. Like I think, I think with the thing is with the thumb, I think you can realistically be like, oh, I was going for the ball, but like karate chop him in the thumb. Whatever. Yeah. That's something that reasonably he's just going to have to deal with. At least the face, it's like, all right, well, it'll look super obvious if they go for that at least. So
I mean, Pat Riley is in that building, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Rich is a staff writer for The Athletic. Follow him there for all the great content and coverage of the Philadelphia 76ers. Rich, you got to sue The Athletic for using the headshot that they use. They're not doing you any favors, Rich. It's not indicative of what you look like as a person. You're like a better looking guy than your headshot.
Ouch.
And
I got roasted here. Oh man.
You're a very handsome gentleman, and they're using an old shot, and it's like they gotta change it. They gotta change it, Rich. That's all I'm saying. Rich, thank you for joining us. We'd love to have you back.
All right, guys. Thanks.